Okay, let's spend some time with the Seeeduino 2.5 touchscreen. It's called TFT V2, and there's all the connectors. And here we have the Portenta, which is attached to the breakout board, which we need for this analog input V7, which is also a digital input-output. I have not got the vision shield attached to the back of the breakout board, just so it can sit nice and flat. Here's my Maker 100 site, so we're going to need that bit of code, and it'll be useful to have this picture. Now on this Maker 100 site, down at the very bottom, I've got the Portenta. So that is in the same orientation as this, and we can use all these pins here. We could use the pins on the breakout board, but I might as well only use it for the pins that are needed. So let's go grab our code. Here it is. It's easier to copy in raw, and this will probably be on the site eventually. Here's where it's going to go. Let's just make sure we're set up for the Portenta. M7, the outside core. Let's just fire that away before we get it all plugged in. Let's have a look at the code. The first important thing is we need this Portenta touchscreen made by this student who's called Lennart401. And there we go. So this is a library which we're going to have to install. So I need to download the zip file. I need to show in the folder. There it is. The easy way to get to this is, how do I want to do? Open with Windows Explorer. Now I have the zip. You see it's got the .zip on it. That's kind of handy because I need to install that. Oh, this actually shouldn't function if it isn't installed. How you install a zip program is you add zip and you just go like that. If it's already installed, it'll probably error tell me something. I have no idea if it can install. Library name Portenta already exists. Awesome. So let's just continue on. Might as well. Is this hooked up? Yeah, flash that, which means I've got to make sure the port's connected, and I want to fire this onto it. So that's all firing. The only problem is we don't have anything hooked up. So I've already showed you, this is the picture. I need to make it a little smaller so we can see it. Not sure why I can't see the whole thing, but that's probably good enough. And then we also have this page with the Portenta. And strangely, got to make that bigger so we can see it. There we go. So we can jump back and forth. So this is obviously this. It took a while to find out that these, where'd they go? These are supposed to be the SPI connectors, MOSI, MOSI, MISO, and SCK. These pins, but strangely, they're actually activated down here. So what I'm going to do, first of all, on the Arduino Yun, A0, A1, A2, A3 work great, but for some reason the Portenta needs this A7. The reason for it is A5 and A4 are connected with the SPI connections, and A0 to A3 do not allow the weird kind of digital analog interactions. They are just analog read. So you need those two analog read and digital input output. Anyway, I'm going to connect those. I'll just pause. Okay, so what do we have? We have D5, D4, A6. So there's D5, D4, A6, and here's A7 all coming from this. So that's that side. Then what's the next thing we have to connect? Reset 5 volt and ground. Now notice the reset 5 volt and ground are here. For some reason, it didn't work until I moved them there. So we go with what works. So we're trying to do reset 5 volt and ground. If we go to the Portenta, there's the 5 volts. 1, 2, 3, 4 is ground, 5 is reset. So what do we have? Here we have the reset, the 5 volt and the ground. Try to do red and black for the 5 volt and ground. And here we have the 5 volts, ground, and reset. Okay, we're getting there. Back to our diagram. What should we do first? Let's do this. The D6, I'm not even going to do the D7. It's a weird thing about SPI. It needs a connector if there are more than one set of things on the SPI, serial connection. But this is the only thing connected, so I don't think the D7 is important. So let's just do this D6. D6 going to D6. So I've got a connector here. D6 is 1, 2 down from the middle there. There's 2 down. And D6 on the Portenta is the far right one. So that's good enough. Let's move on. Now these connections. There's the 6 prongs, and it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need D10, D9, D8. For the Portenta, on the Portenta, D10, D9, D8. There's D8, there's D9, there's D10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so what did I do? I hooked up these 3. It's a little harder to see. I'll move my mouse here. D10, D9, D8. And so the wires are now going to, if this is D6, then there's a gap, then D8, D9, D10. Check everything, make sure everything's correct. And then I believe we've already compiled it. I haven't talked about the code yet, but sometimes it's really good to get the code working. So hopefully it's all compiled or not. Let me re-look at things. Okay, I'm just going to check it. It's now flashing green. The port is correct. Let's fire it onto it. I think it's already compiled, so we're just trying to fire it onto the machine. As far as wiring, I'm going to double check things. The important one's this one. So reset, 3v3, 5 volt, ground. Reset, a space, not 3v3, 5 volt, then ground. Oh, the space was the 3v3. Looks like it's firing it on right now. Warning, I don't know if that's a big deal. That almost looks like it didn't work. Once again, I'm going to pause. Okay, so it's compiled, it's on the board, no flashing lights there. But let's turn this over. And other than it's really bright, there we go. It's not really in focus, but it sort of says it's working. That part, now there's several parts here. And let's open the serial monitor first and see what we're getting with, let me just check my port. Port switched over to the right port, so serial monitor. And let's see if we're getting any touch. There. So what are we getting? Raw 1300X. Y is 117, pressure 384. I've done a conversion. So we've got a 240 by 320 screen. So it's going to be on the screen. That's going to be on an edge of the screen. And the pressure, I've switched the pressure to radius. So what we should see, and I know there are some issues with the edges. So let's just turn it around and see if we get something in approximately, there, approximately the right spot. Students can, see there's a circle right there. So it's sort of sensing something about where I'm pushing. I do know there's some issues with the edges here. I was kind of hoping the shorter wires would solve that, but it's not really solving that. It's definitely filling in the middle. So it's kind of working, good enough for students to then do their own thing. And I think we're good. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the code here. We grabbed the Portenta touchscreen file from GitHub. We need this Adafruit Eli 93. So let's just check in examples. Where'd it go? Adafruit. Okay, there's GFX library, the Adafruit Eli. So that's on. It's already been installed. If you don't have it, you need to go to, well, right there is Manage Libraries, or right here is the same thing, Manage Libraries. Those both are standard libraries, so you can just type it in properly and you should find it. This one, I already showed you how to install it as a zip file from the internet. So what's happening with the code? Here is the Portenta TouchScreen type, which we're creating a variable called TS, and we're passing to it the X positive, the X negative, the Y positive, and the Y negative, and a resistor amount. Okay, that's quite important. Those, and I showed you hooking up those wires. Then we have the SPI, where we're showing D10 is to MISO and MOSI. It's master in, slave out, master out, slave in, and this is some kind of clock. Anyway, D10, D9, D8, and then D7. This is the one that I didn't actually hook up for it to work. And then this is needed, and that amount, the DC, oh, you know why it wasn't needed? Because it was defaulted, probably in this Adafruit library. Anyway, the DC was needed, and it's D6. And this is setting up a TFT, so a touch. I have absolutely no idea why they call it TFT. Okay, so serial begin, TFT begin. We fill the screen blue. We set the rotation to 1. There's probably 1, 2, 3, and 4. We set text color to white. We set text size to 2. We set the text location to 120 and typed it's working. That's all in the setup. Done. No more there. If for some reason we did more printing, it would be on the next line, the next line, the next line. So you can definitely change stuff. I'm not sure if it would go back to the start. By the way, you can look in the GFX library and see more of these commands. So what we're doing is we're setting up a point called tsGetPoint. That is in the library that student on the internet made, Portenta TouchScreen. And what it does is does a p.x, brackets, p.y, and p.z. X and y are the location, the pressure point location, and z is the pressure. So what we're doing here is we're setting a new variable called myx to mapping that x between the raw values 200 and 1400 and the real values on the screen of 0 to 240. This one is taking y from 6 to 1200 and setting it 320 to 0. I've got it reversed there. These things are changeable, and you might have to tune yours to work better than what I've got. This is the pressure readings between about 50 and 70, and we want the pressure to be about 5 to 70. Now this is the radius of the little circles. That's why I don't have 0, because the radius of 0 isn't going to show up. So we make the smallest pressure end up being 5. Okay, so if the pressure is greater than 0, because we don't want this printing thousands of times, it does the 3 serial print lines that you saw. Raw X is string PX. This means tab. Raw Y is PY. Raw pressure is that. Then real X, real Y, and real radius. Remember, pressure turned into radius. And here's really all it's doing, is it's drawing the circle at my X, my Y, my radius, and a random color. That's kind of a cool way to do color. It basically, yeah, that's all there is to the program. I put this in to slow it down only for the serial print. If you were actually running your own program and speed was of essence, you could try deleting this or commenting it out or making the delay of 1. Sometimes it is good to have a small delay, so you get to play around with it a little bit. And that's it.